Okay, this is an important exercise. You must see the world as fixed or variable, or in other words, all expenditures as fixed or variable. You're not truly wise until you can see everything like this. So, if something has both features, then it's called a mixed cost. Let's first define this. A variable cost is something that you will spend more when we make more. Taco Bell, when they make more burritos, they spend more on tortillas. So tortillas are a variable cost. But they're not going to spend more on air conditioning if they make one more burrito or one less burrito. You see, so air conditioning would be a fixed cost. A fixed cost means you don't spend more when we make more. So if Taco Bell makes more burritos or less burritos, the rent is the same. The property tax on the building is the same. So these are fixed costs. But the food that they make and sell, that's variable. Now in this business, we're talking about auto parts. The first one, that's, I don't understand this one. So I'm going to use a different example. Some of these are not easy to know, and your answer could be different depending on the scenario you think of in your head. And I'll tell you when some of them kind of puzzle me. So I'm going to use a different example. I'm going to use a sawmill that cuts logs into lumber. Now, these saw blades or a chainsaw is constantly oiled. So every second that the chain is running, a drip of oil is being added to the chain. So if that's the scenario you think of, then the more you make, the more you will spend. Now, here's another example. In your automobile, you might change your oil every 3 months, but really, you should be changing your oil per mile. So oil is a variable cost. The more you drive, the more you should change your oil. Number 2, plastic. Let's say we're making bumpers. If we make one more bumper, we're going to spend more because we make more. How about property taxes? If we make one more car, we're not going to pay more property tax on this building. Number 4, the salary of the plant manager. If we make one more car or one less car, the salary doesn't change this year, so it's a fixed cost. Number 5, the cost of labor for hourly workers. Now, hourly workers are considered direct labor. And in your textbook, direct labor is always variable. So the textbook assumption is when you're busy, you call them in, and when you're not busy, you send them home, like they would do at Taco Bell. It's not exactly true in a big factory. You can't always take your labor and send them home when you're not busy. But in the textbook world, hourly workers will always be variable. Packaging. The more you produce, the more you spend on packaging. So that's a variable cost. Factory cleaning. So let's say you have the night janitors that come in and clean up. You're not going to spend more if they make one more car or one less car. So this will be fixed. Metal. the car's made out of metal. You make one more car, you're going to spend more on metal. So that's variable. All right. These two right here, I don't like this. The author was not, or whoever wrote this, was not super smart when they wrote this. He's calling these mixed. So let's read one. First of all, rent. Rent on the warehouse. It's $10,000 per month plus $25 per square foot. But wait a minute now. Used. There's an assumption here. The more you produce, the more you're going to use the warehouse. I don't like that assumption, because there are problems written just the same way. And let's say you're a store at the mall. They might charge you per square foot, or they might charge you $10,000 a month plus something per square foot. But that would be a fixed cost, not a mix. So there's a lot of room for error on the author's part, or deception to try to trick you on these mixed ones. Well, anyway, this is mixed. But the assumption is that as you spend more, you're not going to sell it. Or, excuse me, as you make more, you're not going to sell it. You're just going to put it in the warehouse. Later in this text, we'll learn that we don't produce and put in the warehouse. We produce just in time to sell it. So the ending inventory is actually a moot point. Now look at this one. Property insurance. This one, the author is more wrong than in number 9. Now, it looks like a mixed cost because there's per month and there's per property. Now, the author could be right if you're producing automobiles and you don't sell them and you just put them in the warehouse and you just hold them. And then if you have a fire, they're insured. All right. But look, almost always, rent and insurance are fixed, except for this exercise. The rest of the book, you probably see rent and insurance as fixed costs. But, you know, here's your tip-off. If he puts two components, but anyway, I don't like that. Number 11, fixed straight line depreciation. This is a tricky one. Because what if they said accelerated? Accelerated depreciation. Doesn't matter. Straight line or accelerated, doesn't matter. That's a trick. If you make more, will you have more depreciation on a straight line or even accelerated? No, you won't. So this is fixed. If you're using the units of production or units of output or units of activity method of depreciation, then you could say it's variable. But straight line or accelerated would be fixed because those are based on a chart, and it doesn't matter if you produce one more or one less car, the fixed amount or the depreciation is fixed. Now let's go to number 12. It says hourly wages again. Well, where did we see that up here? Number 5, hourly wages, variable. Number 13, electricity. Let's say you have a big machine that uses electricity. You produce more, you spend more. That'd be variable. Computer chip. You make one more car with a computer chip. Make more, spend more. That's variable. Pension cost. Well, now this is tricky. Their author's being cute here. Normally a salary is fixed and a wage is variable, but a pension cost, usually it's the salaried people that get pensions, and a pension is usually fixed, but in this case he says $1 per employee hour on the job. So this one's kind of a weird one. they stretch trying to make these exercises, and sometimes exercises are not perfect. So let's not be confused by an exercise. Let's just use my simple definition. If you produce one more, will you spend more money? That's the basic idea that you have to be clear on. And if you can create a scenario in your mind where you are clear, then you got it. But sometimes our trouble with an exercise like this is trying to understand the scenario that is in the author's mind. All right, that's good enough. There you go.